I'm photographer David duChemin, and this is Vision is Better, a sometimes weekly podcast about the craft and art of photography. Welcome here.
Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about 3 things that you need to spend your money on as a photographer. I know we get crazy about buying gear and there's all kinds of stuff out there, and every time the B&H catalog comes to your house, you pour over it like you've never seen any of this stuff before. We all do it, but there's 3 things that I strongly believe that you need to spend your money on if you're going to pursue photography as a craft. There's a couple other things that aren't included in this list, and they're even before these 3 things. The first is spend the money on the tickets. Rather than spending all this money on gear and then having nowhere to go. And remember, I'm a travel photographer, so this is my particular area of interest. If your thing is portraits, then save the money to do some personal projects and some portrait stuff, or build your backyard studio or whatever it is. For me, it's the tickets. By buying tickets, you will have strong memories that last you forever, that aren't reliant on gear going obsolete and that sort of thing. Buy the tickets, explore the world, do whatever you need to do to get yourself and your cameras into the places that you want to make photographs. That's the first thing I suggest. I really believe most of us have enough gear. We've got the cameras that we need. You don't need that new camera. Probably better that you take the old D700 or D200 or first generation Canon 5D or Digital Rebel or whatever you have. Go somewhere and make photographs. That's the first thing that I think you should spend your money on. The second thing I think you should spend your money on is education. We spend so much on gear that really it blows my mind that we don't spend more money on education. Find great photographers, find a way to be mentored by them, find a way to spend time with them. Buy books, not just educational books, but books of photographs, and educate yourself about this craft. The third thing I really think you need to spend your money on is a great tripod. Stop wasting money on these cheap, crappy little tripods. Buy one that's going to last. Get something from Gitzo or a heavy one from Manfrotto, or spend the extra and get something from Really Right Stuff. But don't cheap out on a tripod. Get something that's really going to serve you, and only you know exactly what that is. I'm going to do a post later, a video blog about choosing a tripod. That's not today's topic. So 3 things I really believe that you need to spend your money on as a photographer. And I'm not talking about the gear lust. I'm talking about really intelligent purchases. The first is a really intelligent backup plan. You've got to have your stuff on multiple drives. I have my stuff on a big RAID drive here. You can see it actually you can't see it, but it's in the background there. It's a 12 terabyte RAID drive. I then also have my stuff backed up onto another G-Tech drive that sits in a Pelican case, and it's offsite at another location, and it's always being backed up. Every time my manager comes to the office, we do a backup, and we make sure that the offsite backup drive is always current. And I have my best work on Photo Shelter as well, sitting in the background where I can access it. I love the idea of cloud-based backups. I love the idea of something like Backblaze or CrashPlan or Photo Shelter, but I wouldn't consider those your primary offsite backup. I would have something in addition to that. Spend the money on a couple really great hard drives that are the capacity that you need. Don't get too much more than you need, because the prices are coming down and hard drives do wear out. But get something that you can put copies of your work in a couple of locations, because you've worked too hard to have this stuff just disappear one day when the hard drive decides to give up the ghost. So that's the second thing that's the first thing I think you need to spend your money on. The second thing think you need to spend your money on is a really good printer. It doesn't have to be gigantic, but a good printer so you can print your work. If you don't feel like the economics are there, you don't want to spend the money on the inks and that sort of thing, or you don't have the space, then at least spend the money on getting your work printed, get it tangible, get it printed into the real world, live with it, hang it on your walls, give it away, make sure that you're actually making your photographs, get them into the real world. I became a much better photographer by printing my work. You can see the flaws. You can't see the flaws, and I think we like to kid ourselves about how good our work is, but you can't see the flaws when it's little tiny stuff and on your iPhone or your iPad. get it into the real world, make it big, live with it. You'll find that you look at the balance of a photograph differently when you've looked at it for a while. You'll find flaws that you didn't know before, and you will become a stronger photographer by living with your printed work. Print it. I use an Epson P800. It's the new replacement for what I think was the R3880, and it prints up to 22 inches wide. It's a lovely printer. It's got a nice big gamut, rich blacks, and it sells on Amazon for about $1,200 US, I think. It's a really great printer. I love mine. It's easy to use, and it means I can constantly be printing my work and getting it out there. Don't be that photographer whose work only exists on your hard drive. And the third thing I think you need to spend your money on as a photographer, and again, this is not about the shiny new gear. In fact, nobody ever sees this, but it's a hardware-based monitor or display calibration tool. I use this one. This is the Spider 3, and it's the Spider 3 Elite or Pro or something, I don't know, but it's about once a week I hang it on the front of my display, and it walks me through. It's software based as well, so it kind of basically does it all for me. I just have to press a couple buttons. And one of the first things it will do is bring your display brightness to the appropriate level instead of that blazing, burn your retinas out kind of brightness we all like to have. You'll probably find that you're underexposing your images, and you're going to have to start learning to use your histogram. But when you calibrate your monitor, you will get better prints. You'll start to notice that your prints come out, they're not as dark. Of course, you'll see that first in Lightroom, and you'll be bumping your exposure in it, but it will make you a better photographer if you print, and it will only make you a better photographer if you're printing right. So calibrate your display. You can get these online for about $200-300, and I know you're thinking, oh my God, it's another thing I have to spend money on. If you wanted to get into something cheap as a hobby, you probably should have chosen, crocheting or something, or I was going to say collecting postage stamps, but as far as I can see, postage stamps also cost money. It's just going to cost you. That's the way it goes. Buy one less lens this year. Don't buy that 85 1.2 from Canon that's going to cost you $2,000. Buy something that's a little bit more affordable. Buy something that's used. Go on eBay. Economize, but get a backup drive, get a printer, and make sure that you calibrate your displays. Those three things will improve your photography dramatically. Remember, gear is good, but vision is better. We'll see you next time.